a werewolf shifter romance, specially written for you. Prologue. The first thing you feel is the cold. It's not the sharp chill of winter, but the damp, biting cold of the mountain mud soaking through your thin tunic. Your withered left leg drags behind you like a dead weight, a useless anchor that has defined your 14 years of life. "Faster, Cripple," a voice snarls. You look up. It's Kale, the lead enforcer. He has a shovel slung over his shoulder, his eyes reflecting the cruel silver of the full moon. Behind him stands Alpha Thorn, the man who was supposed to be your protector after your parents died. He doesn't look at you. He looks at the horizon, as if you are a stain he's waiting for the rain to wash away. "Why?" Your voice is a raspy whisper, raw from the tears you've already shed. "The stone claw pack has no room for the halt and the lame, Silas," Thorn says, his voice as flat as a whetstone. "A chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Tonight, we remove the weakness." They reach the Gully of the Unworthy, a jagged scar in the earth where the pack throws its waste. Kyle kicks your good leg, and you collapse into the rectangular pit they dug while you were sleeping. The impact knocks the wind from your lungs. The smell of raw, wet clay fills your nose. "Don't worry," Kale grins, leaning over the edge. "The worms aren't picky eaters." The first shovel of dirt hits your chest. It's heavy, heavier than you imagined. You try to scramble up the walls, but your withered leg buckles. You claw at the loose soil, your fingernails tearing, blood mixing with the grime. Another shovel hits your head, blurring your vision. "Please," you scream. "I can work. I can clean the dens. I'm still a wolf." "You're a mistake," Thorn says from above. He turns his back and walks away. The dirt begins to fall faster now. It fills your mouth, silencing your pleas. It covers your legs, then your chest, then your neck. The moonlight above is slowly being choked out by the rain of black soil. The last thing you see is Kale's boots walking away, then darkness, total crushing darkness. The air in your lungs is a finite treasure. You gasp, but you only swallow grit. The weight of the earth is immense, pressing against your ribs until they creak. You are 14 years old and you are being erased. But as your heart slows and the silence of the deep earth takes you, something strange happens. You don't feel the cold anymore. You feel a pulse, a deep tectonic throb that matches the fading beat of your own heart. The earth isn't your tomb, it's a mouth, and it's starting to breathe for you. Welcome to Lily's Heart Tales. Today we aren't just telling a story, we are inviting you to live one. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine the people you trusted most, your family, your pack, deciding that you are too broken to exist. Imagine the cold steel of a shovel and the weight of the earth pressing down on your chest while you're still breathing. Today, you are Silas. You are the boy they thought they could discard like trash, but they forgot one thing. When you bury a seed, it doesn't die, it grows. Before we descend into the dark, make sure to subscribe and join our community. We tell the stories of the silenced and the strong. Now, tell me in the comments, if you were buried by your own family, would you return to forgive them, or would you make the earth swallow them whole? Let's begin. Chapter 1. You are suspended in a sea of velvet black, caught in the suffocating embrace of the deep earth. By all the laws of nature, you should be dead. Your lungs should be filled with silt, your heart a frozen lump of muscle. But the universe has a strange way of reacting to a betrayal as foul as yours. As you lay there, 6 feet beneath the Gully of the Unworthy, the silence is absolute, until it isn't. At first, it's a hum, a low-frequency vibration that you feel in your teeth before you hear it in your ears. It is the heartbeat of the mountain, a tectonic rhythm that has been drumming since the world was fire and gas. The earth doesn't see you as a corpse. It sees you as an empty vessel. Then, the stitchers arrive. You feel a tickling sensation against your skin, the microscopic movements of thousands of ancient, sentient roots. They are the white, hair-like fibers of the great oaks that grow above, reaching down for moisture, but they find you instead. They don't move with the randomness of nature. They move with the precision of a surgeon. They slide beneath your fingernails. They weave through the pores of your skin. You want to scream, but your jaw is packed with clay. Instead, you feel a strange, cold peace as the roots begin to map your nervous system. They find the weakness the alpha spoke of, your withered left leg, the bone brittle and the muscle atrophied. The earth growls in disapproval. Deep beneath you, a vein of primordial iron and liquid obsidian senses your need. The earth begins to pump. It forces a slurry of molten minerals upward, through the soil, and directly into your porous, broken bones. You feel a white-hot heat explode in your leg. It's the sensation of 1,000 needles knitting your flesh back together, but stronger. Your human calcium is being stripped away, replaced by obsidian-infused bone that is harder than diamond and more flexible than steel. Your withered leg isn't just being healed, it is being forged. You feel your ribcage expanding, the roots acting as a secondary set of lungs, filtering oxygen directly from the air pockets in the soil into your bloodstream. Your heart, once weak and fluttering with fear, begins to beat with the heavy thrum of a forge hammer. Thump, thump, thump. Each beat sends a ripple through the dirt around you, a small earthquake that only the worms can feel. You are no longer Silas, the orphan boy. You are becoming a lithomorph, a creature born of flesh and tectonic fury. In the absolute darkness of your tomb, your consciousness begins to expand. You aren't limited to your body anymore. You can see through the vibrations. You feel the heavy, arrogant paws of the stone claw warriors patrolling the woods far above. You feel the weight of Alpha Thorn's boots as he stands near the pack house, laughing with the enforcer who buried you. Every vibration is a memory. Every footstep is an insult. The earth whispers to you in a language of grinding stone and shifting plates. It tells you that the moon has many children, but the earth only has one. It tells you that you are its chosen weapon, the king of the hollow. Your eyes, once dull with the pain of a cripple, snap open in the dirt. They don't see light because there is none. Instead, they see heat. They see the golden veins of the world and the cold, dark hearts of the men who left you to rot. You are not waiting to be rescued. You are waiting to be finished. The root sleep is almost over, and when you wake, the world above will realize that some things are buried not to be forgotten, but to be sharpened. For months, you remain submerged, a ghost in the strata. You have learned to move without moving. By shifting the density of the soil around you, you can glide through the earth like a shark through water, your obsidian-plated body silent against the compressed clay. You don't rise to the surface yet. You aren't ready to show them your face, but you are more than ready to show them your hunger. The Stoneclaw pack has become complacent. They think the Gully of the Unworthy is a dumping ground for the dead, but you have turned it into your larder. You begin with the periphery. You feel the vibrations of a lone sentry, a warrior named Bran, who was among those who mocked your withered leg. He is standing at the edge of the gully, relieving himself and whistling a careless tune. Through the soles of his boots, you read his pulse. It is steady, arrogant, and slow. You drift upward until you are mere inches beneath the soles of his feet. You don't use a blade, you use the earth itself. With a subtle flex of your new, mountain-hewn muscles, you cause the soil beneath Bran to lose its tension. The ground doesn't just break, it liquefies. In a heartbeat, the sentry's whistle turns into a choked gasp. He sinks to his knees in what looks like solid ground. To his eyes, the earth has turned to hungry water. He thrashes, his claws digging into the dirt, but the more he struggles, the faster the earth pulls him down. You reach up from the darkness and wrap a hand of cold black stone around his ankle. The terror that radiates through his boots is intoxicating. He screams for the alpha, for his mates, for anyone. But the gully is deep, and the dirt is a perfect insulator of sound. You pull him down into the airless dark. You don't kill him instantly. You let him feel the weight you felt. You let him understand the weakness of a man who cannot breathe. By the time the sun rises, there is no sign that Bran was ever there. The grass has smoothed over, and the soil is firm once more. Over the next few weeks, the disappearances grow. A scout here, a hunter there. The pack begins to whisper about a Gully ghost or a soil curse. Alpha Thorn rages, sending parties to search the woods, but they are looking at the trees when they should be looking at their own shadows on the ground. You are refining your power. You discover that you can whisper to the stone. You can make the cavern walls groan to distract a guard or make a path crumble beneath a fleeing prey. You are reclaiming the territory inch by cubic inch. But the small hunts are just practice. You are waiting for the Purity Festival, the night the pack gathers to celebrate their strength by mocking the weak. You are waiting for the moment when the entire pack is standing on the very ground you now command. Your obsidian leg is fully formed, pulsing with a faint tectonic orange glow. Your lungs are now deep bellows of earth energy. The root sleep is over. The hunt has moved from the dark into the light. Chapter 2. The air in the center of the Stoneclaw village is thick with the scent of roasted meat and expensive ale. A massive bonfire, 30 feet high, crackles in the center of the square, casting long, dancing shadows against the stone pack house. You are beneath them. Through the crust of the earth, you feel the rhythmic pounding of 100 dancing feet. You feel the vibrations of Alpha Thorn's booming laughter as he stands on a raised stone dais, hoisting a golden chalice. He is telling the story of how he cleansed the pack of its dead weight, his eyes gleaming with the pride of a tyrant. "To the strong!" Thorn roars, and the pack bellows back in unison. You are positioned directly beneath the great fire. The heat from above would scorch a normal wolf, but to you it feels like a warm bath. You reach out with your obsidian hands and grasp the roots of the world. You begin to draw. You aren't just rising, you are erupting. The first sign of your arrival is a low, guttural groan from the planet itself. The chalices on the tables begin to rattle. The dancing stops. The music dies. A hairline fracture snaps across the stone dais, splitting Thorn's throne in two. "An earthquake?" Kale, the enforcer, hisses, his hand flying to the hilt of his blade. "No," Thorn whispers, his face paling as he looks at the bonfire. The fire doesn't flicker, it implodes. The center of the flame is sucked downward into the earth, and for a heartbeat, there is a terrifying, vacuum-like silence. Then, the ground shatters. A column of molten earth and jagged obsidian spikes bursts upward, scattering the bonfire like matchsticks. From the center of the smoking crater, you rise. You stand nearly 7 feet tall now. Your frame is a landscape of corded muscle and living stone. Your left leg, once a withered stick of bone, is now a pillar of black volcanic glass that pulses with the light of a dying star. You don't wear clothes. The earth has fashioned a loincloth of ancient, flexible root and armored plate around your hips. The silence that follows is so heavy it feels like the atmosphere has increased in pressure. The pack warriors back away, their wolves whimpering in their minds. This isn't a shifter. This isn't a ghost. This is a god of the deep. You slowly lift your head. Your magma-orange eyes lock onto Kyle, the man who threw the first shovel of dirt. You missed a spot. Your voice is not a human voice. It is the sound of boulders grinding together, a tectonic resonance that vibrates in the very marrow of everyone standing in the square. Kale's knees knock together. "Silas, it can't be. You were a cripple. You died in the gully." "I didn't die," you say, taking your first step toward him. The ground beneath your obsidian foot cracks, a small spiderweb of fissures reaching out toward the crowd. "I was recycled." Alpha Thorn finds his voice, though it shakes. "Guards, kill this abomination. Whatever it is, it bleeds." A dozen elite warriors, their claws extended, lunge toward you. You don't even flinch. You simply stomp your obsidian leg onto the ground. The reaction is instantaneous. The earth heaves upward in a jagged wave, a stone pulse that catches the warriors mid-air. They aren't just hit, they are launched backward by the very soil they stand on, their bodies slamming into the walls of the pack house. You turn your gaze back to Thorn. You see the terror in his eyes, the realization that the weakness he tried to bury has returned as his judge, jury, and executioner. "The festival is over, Thorn," you growl, the orange veins in your chest glowing brighter. "Tonight, the Stone Claw Pack learns what happens when the earth decides to take back its own." Kyle, the lead enforcer, is the first to recover. Desperation is a powerful intoxicant, and he knows that if he doesn't kill you now, his life is forfeit. He shifts mid-leap, his body distorting into a massive gray-furred wolf with claws like serrated daggers. "Die again, cripple!" he howls, aiming for your throat. You don't move. You don't raise a hand to guard yourself. You simply focus on the core of the earth beneath your heels. As Kale's weight closes in, you trigger a gravity well. The air around you suddenly densifies. The atmospheric pressure spikes so sharply that the glass lanterns nearby shatter. Kale, caught in the invisible grip of the earth's intensified pull, doesn't land his strike. Instead, he is slammed downward, as if a giant invisible hand has swatted him out of the sky. He hits the stone pavement with a sickening crunch, his ribs snapping under the weight of his own suddenly multiplied mass. He whines, pinned to the floor by a force he cannot understand. You walk toward him, your obsidian leg clacking against the stone like a blacksmith's hammer. "You called me a link in a chain, Kyle," you say, your voice vibrating through the floorboards of the nearby houses. "But you forgot, a chain is made of iron. Iron comes from me." You reach down and grab him by the scruff of his neck. With your new strength, he feels like he weighs no more than a pup. You lift him high, letting the entire pack see their alpha enforcer dangling helplessly. "Who else?" you roar, your orange eyes scanning the crowd. "Who else wants to test the strength of the earth?" The other enforcers, seeing their leader defeated without a single blow, drop their weapons. They fall to their knees, not in respect, but in primal terror. Alpha Thorn, seeing his power base crumble in seconds, lunges for his throne, reaching for a hidden silver blade tucked beneath the velvet cushion. But before his fingers can touch the hilt, you slam your fist into the stone dais. The shockwave is surgical. It doesn't destroy the square. It specifically targets the throne. The marble chair explodes into 1,000 shards, and the ground beneath Thorn rises in a jagged pillar, thrusting him 10 feet into the air before dropping him onto his back. You drop the broken Kale into the dirt and turn toward the Alpha. "The Purity Festival was about celebrating the perfect wolf," you growl, stepping over the rubble. "But your perfection is a lie built on the graves of those you feared. You didn't bury me because I was weak, Thorn. You buried me because you knew that if I ever found my strength, I would be your end." You stand over him, the heat radiating from your obsidian skin singeing the hair on his arms. Thorn looks up, his face a mask of sweating, trembling stone. "What are you?" he gasps. "I am the debt you tried to hide," you reply. "And tonight, I've come to collect." You don't kill him. Not yet. Instead, you turn to the crowd, the Omegas who have been beaten, the elderly who were neglected, and the orphans who were starving. "This pack is no longer the Stone Claw," you declare, your voice reaching every ear in the valley. "It is the Hollow Root, and those of you who were told you were nothing, you are the foundation of my kingdom." Chapter 3. You do not retreat to the Alpha's lavish quarters. To you, the gold-trimmed beds and silken hangings feel like spiderwebs, fragile and hollow. Instead, you remain in the center of the village square, your obsidian form rooted to the earth, drawing strength from the deep vibrations of the planet. The Alpha is... He is still alive, King. Jax, a young Omega who once shared his meager bread with you, whispers as he approaches. He looks at your stone skin with awe, not terror. What do we do with him? And the enforcers? You turn your magma-orange eyes toward the cellar where Thorn and his loyalists have been shoved. The stone claw built walls to keep people out, you say, your voice rumbling like a distant rock slide. We will build a foundation to hold them up. You walk toward the center of the village where the ground is scarred from your resurrection. You slam your obsidian heel into the dirt, but this time it isn't an attack. It is a construction. Through the soles of your feet, you speak to the limestone and granite beneath the village. You pull. The earth heaves, but gently. From the mud and the grass, pillars of translucent white quartz and dark basalt begin to rise. They weave together like the fingers of a giant, forming a new structure, a great hearth. It isn't a palace of walls and locks. It is an open pavilion supported by living stone, rooted so deep that no storm could ever move it. From this day, you announce to the trembling pack, no one sleeps in the dirt unless they choose to. No one eats alone. The unworthy are now the architects. You assign the former high-ranking warriors, the pure bloods who used to spend their days preening their fur, to the manual labor of clearing the debris. You watch as Kale, his arm in a sling made of root, struggles to lift a stone he once would have ordered an Omega to carry. But rebuilding a pack isn't just about stone and mortar. It's about the poison left behind. A group of Thorn's most loyal silver fangs stands at the edge of the clearing, their hackles raised. They haven't accepted the new order. They see your mercy as weakness. He's a freak. One of them, a warrior named Torin, snarls loud enough for the others to hear. He's not even a wolf anymore. He's a statue. How can a statue lead a hunt? How can a rock protect us from the Iron-Talon pack when they come to claim our borders? You don't roar. You don't strike him. You simply shift your weight. Suddenly, the ground beneath Torin's feet begins to tilt. Not the whole square, just the 3-foot circle of earth he stands on. He loses his balance, sliding toward you as if the land itself is a conveyor belt, delivering him to his doom. He falls at your obsidian feet, his face pale. A rock does not run from a hunter, Torin, you growl, leaning down until your heat-radiating face is inches from his. A rock is the thing the hunter breaks his teeth against. If you think the Iron-Talons are a threat, go to the border. Tell them the boy you buried has become the mountain they must climb. You release the tension in the earth, and his little patch of soil levels out. Now, you command, looking at the entire pack. Bring me the maps of the territory. I want to feel every root and every stream. I am going to turn this valley into a fortress that breathes. You follow the vibration. Every step you take causes the stone floor of the old pack house to groan, recognizing its master. You reach the lowest level, a cold, damp cellar where Thorn used to keep his most troublesome prisoners. But as you place your hand against the back wall, you don't feel stone. You feel a void. With a single pulse of kinetic energy from your palm, the wall shatters. Behind it lies a hidden staircase, spiraling down into a natural cavern that smells of sulfur and old blood. You descend, your glowing orange veins casting a hellish light against the damp walls. At the bottom, you find the source of the tremor, a massive, pulsating altar carved from void glass, a material that eats light. Thorn didn't just exile the weak because of purity. He was feeding them to something. You shouldn't have come down here, Silas, a voice echoes from the shadows. Alpha Thorn emerges from behind a stalagmite. He is no longer the proud, golden warrior you saw at the festival. His skin is sallow, his eyes rimmed with a sickly purple light. He looks like a man who has been drinking poison and calling it wine. You think the earth gave you this power for free? Thorn sneers, gesturing to the altar. This mountain has a hunger. I kept it fed with the unworthy so it wouldn't consume the rest of us. I wasn't a tyrant. I was a shepherd making a sacrifice. The void glass altar begins to smoke, and a shadow, a grave wraith, begins to coalesce above it. It is a creature of pure hunger, a remnant of a dark era before the first wolves ever walked the earth. This is why the earth rebuilt you. It didn't just want a king, it wanted a jailer. The mountain didn't ask for sacrifices, Thorn, you growl, your obsidian skin turning a white-hot gold as your internal temperature rises. You gave it victims to hide your own cowardice. You fed it children so you wouldn't have to face the dark yourself. The grave wraith lunges, a blur of cold, soul-chilling darkness. It passes through physical objects, but it cannot pass through you. You are made of the very thing that traps it. You catch the wraith's shadowy throat with your hand. The contact is agonizing, the cold of the void clashing with the heat of your tectonic core. But you don't let go. You drive your obsidian fingers into the void glass altar, anchoring yourself to the bedrock. I am the foundation, you roar, the sound causing the cavern ceiling to rain dust. You begin to absorb the void. You aren't destroying the darkness, you are pulling it into your own body, using your obsidian bone structure as a cage. The purple light of the altar is sucked into your orange veins, turning them a deep, bruised violet. Thorn watches in horror as his god is devoured by the boy he buried. The altar cracks and dissolves into ash. The heavy, oppressive atmosphere of the cavern lifts, replaced by the clean, sharp scent of ozone. You stand there, your chest heaving, your skin now marbled with streaks of dark violet among the orange. You are heavier now, not just in weight, but in spirit. You carry the hunger of the mountain within you. You turn to Thorn, who is cowering against the wall. The sacrifices end today, you say, your voice now carrying the whisper of 1,000 lost souls. But the hunger remains. And since you love the dark so much, Thorn, you will be the one to watch over it. You don't kill him. You touch the floor, and the stone rises up around Thorn's ankles, his knees, his waist. You don't bury him in dirt. You turn him into a living statue, a permanent fixture of the cavern, doomed to stand guard over the empty altar he once worshipped. You walk back up the stairs, the weight of the mountain's secret resting on your shoulders. You realize that being an Alpha King isn't just about ruling the living, it's about containing the dead. Chapter 4. News of a Stone King rising from a shallow grave has traveled fast. The Iron-Talon pack, a legion of militaristic shifters from the jagged peaks to the north, does not believe in ghosts or earth gods. They believe in land and the steel required to take it. The scouts spot them at dawn, 12 riders on armored dire wolves, draped in furs, dyed the color of dried blood. They don't come with war cries, but with a white flag of parley. They call themselves diplomats, Jax reports, his breath hitching as he stands before your quartz pavilion. But king, they carry more silver than a merchant caravan. Their peace offerings are blades. Let them enter, you rumble. You are seated on your low throne, a simple slab of unhewn granite that grew directly from the floor. You don't need a golden chair. You are the throne. The Iron-Talon delegation is led by a woman named Vesper. She is lean, scarred, and her eyes move like a hawk's, scanning your new Hollow Root village for weaknesses. She looks at the Omegas working alongside warriors, and her lip curls in disgust. When she reaches you, she doesn't bow. She stands tall, her hand resting on the pommel of a sword forged from lunar steel, a metal designed to cut through shifter hide and stone alike. So the rumors are true, Vesper says, her voice like grinding glass. A cripple crawled out of the mud and played at being a god. My Alpha, the great Ursus, finds your story entertaining. He offers you a choice. Pay a tithe of half your territory and your magical minerals, or the Iron-Talon will flatten this valley and turn your people back into the dust you came from. You don't respond with words. Instead, you focus on the vibrations beneath Vesper's boots. You can feel the 4 assassins she has hidden in the shadows of the nearby trees. You can feel the vials of liquid silver tucked into her belt, explosive charges meant to shatter your obsidian skin. Your Alpha sends a messenger to threaten a mountain? you ask, and the ground beneath the pavilion begins to hum a low, menacing C-sharp. You speak of tithing land to a man who has never felt the pulse of the soil. Tell me, Vesper, does Ursus know that his diplomats are sweating with the scent of murder? Vesper's eyes widen. She whistles, a sharp, piercing note. Suddenly, the 4 hidden assassins spring from the shadows, their cloaks fluttering like crow wings. They aren't aiming for your heart. They are throwing weighted nets of silver wire designed to bind and constrict. Simultaneously, Vesper draws her lunar steel blade, the metal glowing with a pale, hungry light. "The mountain falls today," she screams. "But you have spent years in the dark, learning the geometry of motion. To you, they are moving through honey. You don't even stand up. You simply clench your fist. The gravity in the pavilion doesn't just increase, it warps. The silver nets, mid-air, are suddenly yanked toward the floor by an irresistible force, pinning themselves to the obsidian tiles. The 4 assassins are slammed into the dirt, the wind knocked out of them by the sheer weight of their own armor. Vesper struggles forward, her blade trembling in her hand. She is strong, fueled by her own alpha's blood, but she is fighting the planet itself. "You brought Silver to a rock fight," you growl. You stand up, and as you do, the violet veins in your arms flare. You reach out and grab the blade of her lunar steel sword with your bare stone fingers. The metal hisses against your skin, trying to bite into the obsidian, but you are reinforced by the void glass energy you absorbed. With a sickening crack, you snap the legendary blade in half as if it were a dry twig. Vesper stumbles back, looking at the jagged remains of her weapon in horror. "Impossible! That steel can cut through bedrock." "I am not bedrock," you say, tossing the shards at her feet. "I am the heart of the world, and the heart is tired of being stepped on." Vesper stares at the shattered blade, the symbol of Iron-Talon's invincibility, now reduced to scrap metal. Her assassins are still pinned to the floor, gasping for air as the gravity you've manipulated slowly begins to normalize. "You won't kill us," Vesper whispers, her voice shaking. "Our alpha, Ursus. He will see this as a declaration of war. He will bring the entire legion. Thousands of wolves, siege engines, fire." You step off the dais, your obsidian feet leaving faint, glowing impressions on the quartz floor. You stand over her, your massive shadow swallowing her whole. "I am not declaring war, Vesper," you rumble, the violet veins in your chest pulsing with the caged energy of the void. "I am ending a cycle. You tell Ursus that the Stoneclaw is gone. Tell him the hollow root does not fear fire, for fire only tempers the stone." You reach out, but not to strike her. You place your stone palm on the ground, near the 4 pinned assassins. You focus on the tectonic layers, the deep channels of liquid rock and compressed sand. "If I wanted you dead," you say softly, "the earth would have swallowed you before you reached my gates. But a king needs messengers, not corpses." With a sudden, sharp gesture, you cause the ground beneath the assassins to rise, not as pillars, but as earthen coffins. The stone wraps around their limbs, encasing them in a layer of reinforced granite that leaves only their heads exposed. They are immobilized, frozen in stone, yet alive. "Jax!" you call out. The young Omega steps forward, his eyes wide. "Get the sleds. We are sending our guests home." You turn back to Vesper, who is watching her men being handled like statues. "I am sending them back as a gift," you tell her. "They will remain in these stone shells for 3 days. On the 3rd sunset, the stone will crumble, and they will be free. It is a timer, Vesper, a reminder that I control the very ground your alpha sleeps on." You pick up a piece of the broken lunar steel and hand it to her. The metal is cold, dead. "Show him this. Tell him that the next time he sends diplomats to my valley, he should make sure they are prepared to become part of the landscape. Permanently." Vesper takes the shard, her fingers trembling. She looks at you, not as a cripple, not as a freak, but as a force of nature that cannot be reasoned with or outrun. She whistles for her dire wolf, mounting the beast with a haste that borders on panic. As the Iron-Talon diplomacy team retreats, dragged away in their stone sarcophagi, your people begin to emerge from their homes. They saw the display. They saw the unstoppable silver wolves broken without you even shifting your form. But you don't feel the triumph. The violet light in your veins is stinging now, the hunger of the void glass reaching for your heart. You look toward the northern peaks where the Iron-Talon's fortress sits. You know this wasn't the end. It was the dinner bell. King Silas, Jax says, standing beside you. They will return with an army. I know, you reply, looking down at your hands, and I will give them a mountain to die on. Chapter 5. You know the Iron-Talon Legion. They do not fight for honor, they fight for total erasure. When they return, they will bring siege engines and fire alchemists to melt your skin. To protect the unworthy, who now call you king, you cannot simply be a warrior, you must become the environment itself. Jax, you rumble, the sound vibrating through the very soles of the young wolf's feet. Move the pack into the deep caves behind the great hearth. Seal the entrances with the white quartz I grew. No one is to surface until the mountain speaks. But king, Jax protests, looking at your marble violet arms. You'll be alone out here. They're bringing a legion. I am never alone in this valley, Jax, you reply, your voice a tectonic hum. Every root is my nerve, every stone is my bone. Once the village is evacuated, you walk to the center of the valley, the heart pulse point. You strip away the root loincloth, standing as a raw obsidian monument under the pale moon. You kneel and drive both hands deep into the soft loam, bypassing the soil and grabbing hold of the raw bedrock. You begin to pulse. You aren't just building walls, you are rewriting the geography. With a massive surge of the void energy you caged, you command the trees to move. The great oaks, their roots intertwined with your own obsidian nervous system, begin to shift, their branches weaving together into a canopy of iron-hard wood that hides the village from aerial scouts. Next, you turn to the river. With a flick of your wrist, you tilt the tectonic plate beneath the water's path. The river, once a peaceful stream, is forced into a new channel, circling the village in a churning, deep trench moat filled with jagged obsidian spikes that rise and fall like the teeth of a saw. Finally, you reach for the echo stones, the massive boulders that line the valley ridges. You imbue them with your kinetic resonance. If an enemy steps onto the ridge, the stones won't just fall. They will seek out the heat of a beating heart like living predators. By the time the sun rises, the valley is unrecognizable. It is a labyrinth of shifting earth, carnivorous trees, and living soil that can turn into quicksand at your command. But the cost is visible. The violet streaks have moved up your neck, reaching toward your jaw. Your eyes are no longer just orange, they are a swirling storm of magma and shadow. You are losing the boy named Silas. The Alpha King is being swallowed by the mountain god. You feel a vibration, a rhythmic, heavy thumping from the north. It's not an earthquake. It's the march of 10,000 boots. The Iron-Talon has arrived. The Iron-Talon Legion stops at the mouth of the valley. From your high vantage point on a jagged basalt spire, you watch as they deploy their secret weapon, the fire alchemists. These are shifters who have traded their wolf forms for the ability to vomit napalm-like bile, designed to melt the very stone you control. "Burn the woods!" Ursus's voice booms, amplified by a silver megaphone. "Boil the earth until the cripple crawls out of his hole." A dozen alchemists step forward, unleashing torrents of green chemical fire. The living fortress you built begins to scream. The iron-hard oaks you wove together crackle and groan as the unnatural heat eats through their bark. But you are not a passive observer. You are the conductor of this symphony. You drop from your spire, slamming into the center of the valley. As your obsidian feet touch the ground, you send a deep chill pulse. You draw the heat from the surface and bury it miles below into the mountain's core. The green fire, robbed of its thermal energy, sputters and dies, turning into harmless, frozen flakes of soot. "My turn," you growl. You don't run toward the army. You simply reach into the air and pull downward. The ground beneath the lead legionaries doesn't just open, it inhales. The living soil you prepared turns into a localized gravity sink. 500 armored wolves are sucked into the earth up to their waists in a single heartbeat. Then you clench your fist, and the liquid soil turns back into solid granite. They aren't dead, but they are part of the pavement. Ursus roars in fury, realizing his infantry is being neutralized by the geography. Siege towers, crush the ground, flatten it! Massive iron-bound towers rolled forward, their weight meant to crack your tectonic plates. But as they enter the kill zone, you reveal the void trap. You release the violet energy caged in your veins. The dark light surges through the ground, creating a negative space rift. The front two towers don't tip over. They simply fall through the world, vanishing into a bottomless trench that opens and closes like a stone eyelid. You stand in the middle of the carnage, a matte black god wreathed in violet lightning. You are no longer breathing air. You are breathing the essence of the mountain. "Is this the best the high blood can offer?" you shout, the resonance of your voice shattering the glass visors of the Iron-Talon officers. You came to conquer a pack, but you found a planet. Suddenly, a massive shadow falls over you. Alpha Ursus himself has shifted, not into a wolf, but into a dire behemoth, a creature the size of a cottage, covered in silver-plated armor. He leaps from the ridge, his claws aimed directly at your obsidian skull. "I will grind you into sand, boy," Ursus bellows. The collision sends a shockwave through the valley that levels every remaining tree. The dust clears to show you holding Ursus's massive silver-clad paw with one hand, your feet buried 3 feet deep into the bedrock from the impact. Your obsidian skin is cracked, leaking molten gold and violet shadow, but you are smiling. A terrifying, stone-cold smile. "You're standing on my heart, Ursus," you whisper, "and I'm about to stop beating." Chapter 6. The impact has created a literal crater. You are standing at the center of a scorched circle of earth, your obsidian feet locked into the bedrock. Ursus, in his dire behemoth form, towers over you. His silver-plated claws are locked against your stone forearms, the metal shrieking as it tries to grind through your volcanic skin. "You are nothing but a freak of nature," Ursus roars, his breath smelling of ozone and raw meat. "A wolf is meant to run, to hunt, to bleed. You are just a cold, dead statue." "Dead things don't feel the weight of your crimes, Ursus," you reply. Your voice doesn't come from your throat. It hums from your chest, a tectonic resonance that makes his silver armor vibrate until it cracks. With a roar of effort, Ursus slams his head into yours. The impact is like 2 planets colliding. Your obsidian forehead cracks, and for a moment, the violet light of the void spills out, blinding the soldiers watching from the ridges. You stumble back, your weak leg, now your strongest pillar, trembling as it takes the strain. Ursus doesn't give you a moment to recover. He begins a relentless assault, a blur of silver claws and crushing weight. He is fast, faster than anything made of stone should be able to track. He shreds the living fortress around you, using his sheer mass to plow through your stone traps. He pins you against the cliffside, his fangs sinking into your shoulder. He isn't just biting, he's injecting alpha venom, a liquid fire meant to shut down the nervous system of any shifter. But you don't have a human nervous system anymore. "Is that all?" you whisper. You reach up and grab Ursus by his silver-plated throat. The violet streaks in your skin flare into a blinding white-hot heat. You aren't just using strength now, you are using fusion. You begin to heat the silver of his own armor, melting it until it fuses with his fur and skin. Ursus howls in agony, trying to pull away, but you have become a magnet. The earth beneath his paws turns to liquid mud, dragging him down, while the cliffside behind you reaches out with stone hands to bind his limbs. "You called me a statue," you growl, your eyes now twin suns of magma. "Now, I'll show you why the mountain never moves." You channel the entirety of the void glass hunger into your palms. You aren't just hurting him, you are draining the kinetic energy from his very cells. Ursus begins to slow. His massive heart, which once beat like a war drum, starts to stutter. The silver wolf is being turned into a monument of his own greed. But the strain is shattering you. Large chunks of obsidian fall from your chest, revealing a core of pure, swirling violet energy. You are reaching your limit. If you don't end this now, the Mountain King will explode, taking the entire valley and your pack with it. Silas, stop! A voice cuts through the roar of the wind. You look up to see Jax and the other Omegas standing at the entrance of the cave. They aren't hiding anymore. They are watching their king die to save them. Don't become the monster to kill the monster, Jax screams. His voice anchors you. It reminds you that you aren't a god. You are a boy who was loved by his parents and betrayed by his pack. You don't need to consume Ursus. You just need to ground him. With a final, earth-shattering roar, you thrust your hands into the ground and pull. You don't hit Ursus. You hit the fault line. The entire ridge collapses. 1,000,000 tons of granite and earth slide forward in a controlled avalanche. You don't bury Ursus to kill him. You bury him to end the war. The stone wraps around the behemoth, sealing him in a tomb of his own making, deep beneath the valley floor. The dust settles. The Iron-Talon Legion, seeing their god swallowed by the world, breaks and runs. The siege is over. But as the silence returns to the valley, you fall to your knees. Your obsidian skin is gray and dull. The violet light is fading. You look down at your hands and see, for the first time in years, the soft, pale skin of a human boy peeking through the cracks of the stone. The mountain is finished with you, and you are finally, truly alone. You sit at the center of the crater, a fractured titan. The violet light that once roared through your veins has slowed to a faint rhythmic throb. Great plates of obsidian have sloughed off your shoulders, littering the ground like broken glass. Underneath, your skin is no longer stone, but it isn't quite human either. It is marbled with silver scars and traces of quartz, a living map of the war you just won. Jax is the first to reach you. He doesn't bow. He doesn't tremble. He simply places a hand on your shoulder. The first time a living being has touched you without fear in 5 years. It's over, Silas, he whispers. The mountain is quiet. You look at your hands. Your fingers are no longer claws of volcanic glass, but they are heavy, possessed of a strength that feels permanent. You realize the mountain god didn't leave you. It simply settled into your bones. You have reached a state of equilibrium. Over the next few days, the rebuilding begins. Not with magic, but with hands. You refuse to use your powers to grow the village back. You want them to build it. You want every timber and every stone to be placed by a hand that chose to be there. The survivors of the original Stoneclaw pack, those who stood by while you were buried, come to you in the great hearth. They are led by Kale, who is now a hollow shell of the man he was. They expect execution. They expect to be fed to the grave wraith you caged. You stand before them, taller than any alpha, your eyes glowing with a calm, amber light. I will not bury you, you tell them, your voice no longer a rock slide, but a deep, resonant cello. The earth has had enough of bodies, but you are no longer the pure, you are the indebted. You will work the fields, you will tend to the orphans, you will be the foundation for the ones you once called weak. You turn to the Omegas, the outcasts, and the broken. And you say, your gaze softening. You are the roots. Without you, the mountain falls. From this day, there are no nulls. There is only the pack of the hollow root. You take your seat on the granite slab. You don't wear a crown. You don't need a golden scepter. As you sit, you feel the roots of the great oaks winding around the base of your throne, anchoring you to the land. You aren't just an alpha king. You are a living anchor. The story of the cripple in the grave begins to spread across the territories. It becomes a legend told to pups who feel they don't fit in, a warning to alphas who think their power is absolute. They say that if you listen closely to the ground in the northern valley, you can still hear the heartbeat of the boy who refused to stay buried. The epilogue. 10 years have passed. The valley is now a lush sanctuary, a marvel of engineering where stone and nature exist in perfect harmony. The Iron-Talon never returned. The sight of their alpha being swallowed by the world was enough to keep them behind their own walls for a generation. You stand at the edge of the Gully of the Unworthy. It is no longer a waste pit. It is a garden. Flowers that only grow in mineral-rich soil, flowers with petals like shards of sapphire, bloom in the very spot where you were buried. A young pup, no more than 5 years old, trips near the edge of the slope. He has a slight limp, a birth defect that in the old days would have marked him for the pit. You reach out, your hand large and warm, and steady him before he can fall. "Careful, little one," you say. The boy looks up at you, his eyes wide with wonder. He reaches out and touches your forearm, feeling the cool, hard texture of the obsidian marble that still traces your skin. "Are you the king who can talk to the rocks?" he asks. You smile. And for a moment, the violet light in your veins hums with a gentle, protective warmth. "I don't just talk to them," you reply, looking out over your peaceful kingdom. "I listen. And they tell me that as long as we remember the dirt we came from, we will never fall." You look down into the garden. Beneath the flowers, deep in the dark where the root sleep once held you, you feel the earth's approval. You were buried as a seed of vengeance, but you rose as a forest of hope. The Alpha King of the Roots closes his eyes, and the world breathes with him.